What's up? Welcome into this Tuesday. I almost forgot what day it was. Tuesday edition of Pushing the Pile, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. When it's draft season, Kyle, the days just blend together. It's just days before the draft, 9 days to be precise. God, I can't wait. Can't wait for next week. I get to see you next Wednesday
it's in Green Bay.
up in New York.
It's in Green Bay, Wisconsin. It's in the old Lambeau, Vatican City, as it were. That place is it's a special one, and people that probably hear that the draft's going to be in Green Bay for the first time, they're like, "What the hell are we doing? Miami, Vegas, LA, New York, Chicago." We've seen it all happen, but like if you've missed out on Green Bay your entire life and you're a football fan, I feel bad for you. Take that trip. Make it happen. And for so many thousands of people, they will descend upon Green Bay, Wisconsin. And it's funny that I'm wearing this Bears hoodie while I'm just like glazing that area of the country.
Keep going.
But I mean, it really is a special place. So I'm glad the draft's coming up. You're excited about that, but you're doubly excited about showing off your Green Bay Packers setup.
I am a little bit of a homer. I was born in Milwaukee. My brother lives up in Green Bay and his family. My parents' house is 2 blocks from the stadium, right behind Kroll's. It's going up there. It's how they've built up the stadium district too is amazing. If you haven't been, so big fan. Very salty that I'm not going to get to go, obviously, because my world's colliding here with my draft love and my Packers love. But we'll be in New York doing that other pregame show on Wednesday, right?
Yeah, well, I think we're going to be doing I'm going to be in New York for Tops doing
I will be on that
preview show. Okay, so this looks like 2 worlds colliding, which is awesome. They've always got you on the road doing one thing or another, whether it's the Senior Bowl or going to the Combine. I'm really glad that they let us put our heads together in another medium. And you get to hang out with all my buddies at Tops because we've been doing it for a long time together. It's one of the most fun groups of people I've been involved with. Adam Shine, Brock Vereen, Amy Trask, everybody up there at Tops. They do a great job. And we're going to get better because you're there. I don't think there's anybody who could even sniff some of the stuff that you're going to get into when it comes time for that draft show.
Yeah, so make sure to check that out. I will also be on the Bleacher Report round 1 with Micah Parsons and Darius Slay. So make sure and check that out too.
Jeez, funny story about explosive.
Darius Slay. I want to bring, so apparently when he was with the Lions, when Patricia was there, he hated Matt Patricia because in one of the meetings after the Giants game, he put a picture of him. He put a picture on his Instagram of him and Odell Beckham like swapping jerseys. And like after the game, like, put it on his Instagram and said like all love, bro, or something like that. And Patricia put it up in the team meeting and was just like roasting him. And like after that, he said Darius Slay was gone. Like he didn't want to play the rest of that season. I was debating bringing that picture and having him sign it, but I don't think I will. It's probably not a great way to get off on the right.
There's a time and a place for coaches to kind of show what their gangster's all about. And I would say this. Darius Slay is not the guy to make an example of. There are certain leaders on football teams like Tom Brady. I'll use Tom Brady, for example, the best that ever did it. Bill Belichick used him as kind of a scapegoat for everybody else. And everybody knew that he was talking to the entirety of the team, but Tom Brady could take it.
Yep.
I'm not sure if an all-pro corner wants to be even bothered. Like, just let him go do his thing. He's one of the best dudes on your roster and players. And you're Matt Patricia. You're trying to figure out where you stand as a head coach. Probably not the best bet. But you got Micah as well on there.
Micah's great, dude. That guy loves football. If you're a Cowboy, if you're the Cowboys, the fact that they haven't gotten a deal done with him, like that is a guy that you want in your building, repping the star for the rest of his life. He is that kind of guy that is just going to go to war for your franchise, and messing around with him right now. Just get that deal done, Jerry. All right, we got a packed show for you because we are just over a week out. We're going to hit some draft team superlatives, things like who needs to nail this draft the most, who's a fit we like the most, who's going to get an A+ in this draft. And then we got some prospect superlatives after that, things like best prospect, most underrated, player you trade up for, things of that nature. But first, in our first off the ball segment, a bit of news for your Bears, specifically here. Kyler Gordon their slot corner, signs a $40 million deal. I struggle to call this a record. It was reported as a record. I think his agent texted all the people and said this is a record deal for a slot cornerback. Deommodore Lenoir, do we forget, just signed a 5-year, $92 million deal. This is a 3-year, $40 million deal. Deommodore Lenoir played like 100 more snaps from the slot than Kyler Gordon did last year, even if he plays a little bit more outside. So not quite a record, but a good deal, in my opinion, for the Bears.
It's a great deal for the Bears, man.
And this is like wide receiver 3 numbers that you're having to pay this guy.
Yeah, and it's really great for a guy like Dennis Allen to be coming into the building knowing he has a slew of weapons and a number of those guys under contract. Jalen Johnson, in retrospect, is under one of the best contracts that you can find in football for a defensive superstar at the corner position. So you bring Kyler Gordon in, you lock him up, $40 million extension. While that's a big number, it's not that big of a number in the big scheme of things. So good on the Bears for getting this done. I know Dennis Allen's going to utilize him in the right way. Kyler Gordon, all these guys in the secondary for the Bears, they're like a Swiss Army knife. And you can attest to this. They pressure the quarterback, they cover down the football field, and they turn the football over for the Bears. It's huge to get this guy locked up. Big move.
Yeah, I love it from the Bears' perspective. And again, if you can keep that secondary intact, you do it. You do it. It's a very good secondary. All right, the other bit of news, Dolphins and Jalen Ramsey mutually agreeing to seek a trade. Not the player we thought that they'd be seeking to trade for in Tyreek Hill, but another one with a big cap hit who has the dreaded 3 before his age at the cornerback position, turns 31 in October. Obviously, any corner over 30, you always worry about play slipping. Obviously, Jalen is not the guy he once was, but still was pretty darn good a season ago. This one makes a ton of sense from the Dolphins' perspective. Obviously, they have a lot of cap massaging to do over the next couple seasons to make this roster competitive yet again, and a lot of drafts they need to knock out the park. But are there any teams you want to see Jalen Ramsey go to?
Well, you and I were talking before the show, and, Green Bay is a team that comes up. But I want to talk about this situation and how it occurs so often in the National Football League. You just said it. He's not the player he once was. Well, newsflash, none of us are when we're in our 30s. But if you're looking relative to how he came into the league, just a comet of a player, so explosive, such a big playmaker, obviously wildly popular because of his off-the-field personality and at the podium, you're looking at Jalen Ramsey at probably 75, 80% of what he once was at 100%. And that's still a really good football player. You also attested to the fact that he had a good year last year. It's just not the Jalen Ramsey we're used to seeing. So whoever does land this guy, I'm sure he'll have a second wind of sorts, but you're never going to get the guy that you had when he came into the league.
Yeah, and if he does get traded, so the Dolphins obviously going to eat a big chunk of his cap hit. His numbers aren't insane. We'll be somewhere in the neighborhood of $14-15 million for whoever is taking him over the next couple seasons. I think that probably will mean there's going to be a market for him. Now, is it going to be a first or second rounder? Probably not. I could see maybe a third if someone's desperate, maybe more likely a couple day 3 picks or some very future thirds in that. I think the Rams also make sense. Obviously intimately familiar with him, having won a Super Bowl with him. And they're a team that makes moves like this, trading for a vet, getting him back in the fold. They did the same thing with Darius Williams. He's back on that roster, right? So I think that's another team that comes to mind that could make a play for Jalen Ramsey. But the Dolphins right now, we talked about their draft needs, and like the Tron Armstead retirement all of a sudden opens up this massive need along the offensive line, even if they have Patrick Ball there. The Christian Wilkins leaving last year left this big hole at DT, and now this, and Kyle Fuller leaving leaves a massive, Kendall Fuller, leaves a massive hole at the cornerback position for the Dolphins. Yeah, Kyle Fuller. I was looking at your Bear sweatshirt. All right, last bit of news. Giants reportedly scheduled a private workout with Shedeur Sanders. They met with him intimately. Keep saying intimately today, but they met with him intimately at the Shrine Bowl, even though he didn't throw there.
It was
now
intimate.
Scheduling a private workout, another intimate workout. Do we buy any chance he goes number 3 overall here?
I mean, you got to think they got to take a swing of the bat in New York. And for a long time, there were people, for whatever reason, and obviously I'm no draft expert at the quarterback position, but there were people saying this guy might not even be as highly rated as some of us have him. And as of late, what we've heard from these big-time draft analysts that we see on the boob tube, the television. They're talking about this guy having incredible pocket presence and the ability to lead in that cloudy window, that cloudy dish. And as you and I both know and understand, that is such a key part of being successful in the National Football League. You get a guy with that intangible and you bring him under the tutelage of a guy like Brian Daboll with a weapon like Malik Neighbors. I could see things start to pick up momentum for the New York Giants with this situation. But then again, you just got Jameis Winston. You just got Russell Wilson. But 3-4 weeks ago, the only quarterback on your roster was Tommy DeVito. So things have already changed drastically in New York at the quarterback position. Are they going to further bolster that room with Shedeur Sanders? I don't know. They're going to find out everything they want to know. Daboll is going to be locked in on his guy. He's going to have him do exactly the things. If there are any question marks in the resume of Shedeur Sanders, they will be tested in this workout. I remember at the end of my career, and this is totally different, but kind of the same, I had a workout with the Raiders, and it was after a year of retirement. And there were certain things that weren't there in my game at the end of my first stint in the league with the Bears. And the Raiders wanted to test specifically those things. They were checking lateral movement. They were checking a number of things. Whatever those things are for Shedeur Sanders, they're going to get tested rigorously by Brian Daboll and his staff.
I'm going to reiterate my big dumb theory about what the Giants could do, which is Travis Hunter at 3, Shedeur slides, you're sitting at pick 34, and you pair up the Colorado duo once again by trading back up into the first round. Jumping probably Pittsburgh. Pick 20, 19, somewhere in that range.
2 bites at the apple.
And you get the both. You get the duo yet again. Because I do think just like that's where you draft Shedeur Sanders, in my opinion. It's not number 3 overall when you have an elite prospect sitting there, and especially when your job's on the line. But if he slides a little, you make that play.
I mean, that would be the buddy. That's sticking the landing right there. That's like hitting it off the rock on the side of the fairway, and your ball flies another 150 yards and lands right by the cup. That's perfect. That's perfect living. And let's be honest, there's only one quarterback, in my opinion, who's ready-made for that market. The number one media market on planet Earth is in New York City, and they will eat you alive if you're a minnow. And there's something that tells me, even if he is small, he's one of those fish that eat everything up. He's a piranha. He's a piranha. I think he eats up that market, and you pair that with maybe some of those intangibles with his pocket presence and his ability to stay calm. And it could be a lot of success in New York if that does end up being the move.
Do we, with the changing media landscape, obviously it's still a massive city, but is the media market thing maybe, I don't want to say a little overblown, but like, is it changing?
No.
Because I think, you don't think so? It's still.
No.
Okay.
Because you know what happens when you shut the radio off? You know what happens when you put your phone away or you shut the iPad or the laptop down? You got to go get Starbucks. Mm-hmm. And you got to go, you got to go to the Travis Matthew pop-up that's in town. And if you're in a place like, name any non-major media market. If you're in one of those towns, if you're in Charlotte, North Carolina, and you're the 200th most famous guy because all the other guys drive NASCARs and shit, it helps. But when you're on the Chicago Bears, when you're a New York Giant, when you are a Dallas Cowboy, name any of these teams, people are on you from the minute you leave the facility to the minute you go to your house. So you have to be a certain type of way. You have to be able to deal with people. But then, the iPad and the phones are on all day. So it's also that media stuff comes into play more often than not. And if you're used to it, if you grew up in the limelight, you can handle it.
Yeah. Your DMs are a mess if you're a Eagles QB, Giants QB, Cowboys QB. You're just getting bombarded. All right. That's our first off the ball segment. Yikes, segment. We're going to take a quick break after that.
Getting into it.
Jesus. You had some draft team superlatives right after this.
Baby, we are going to start a fire.
From world-renowned clubs.
Simply devastating.
To worldwide stars.
Wrexham have done it. This incredible ride continues.
The English Football League on CBS Sports Network and stream every match live on Paramount+.
All right, who's the most desperate team to nail this draft? Okay.
In my opinion, it's the New England Patriots. And I think about the swing and a miss that they had with Gerard Mayo. Clearly, there was a blueprint for Robert Kraft and what he was trying to start with the new administration. And he did it with a player-led, Patriot player-led approach with Gerard Mayo. Didn't work out. Obviously, you bring Vrabes into the fold, and I listened to him do his team meeting the other day, and it was simple. No hoods, put the phones in the bag. We've all been in these meetings. But it's clear to me that they're no bullshit, and I saw that through their offseason acquisitions. It was a wave of players coming into the building, not just players, tough football guys that you and I both respect, appreciate the way that they play the game. I expect them to, I don't want to say take chances, but they've definitely got their guys in this draft that they have their eyes on that fit the blueprint of what they're trying to get accomplished. Now, it's tough to find, what they're looking for and get the toughness. They need a receiver for Drake May. They need somebody who's a dynamic playmaker, and they need an offensive tackle. There are plenty of guys in this draft who can fit the offensive tackle bill, but where they sit in the draft, in my opinion, is going to be tough to get that dynamic playmaker. So they're going to have to get it. They're going to have to hit the nail on the head in the first round with their pick, whether it be tackle or receiver. Because if they swing and miss, it's not going to be perfect. Drake May will get stunted again because of lack of talent around him, and the Patriot faithful will be pissed off yet again this fall.
Yeah. Do you think this for the Patriots ends up being, how like when Gruden took over, it was like the tone setting draft, Gruden and Mayock. They had that Cleveland Furl, Jonathan Abram, Josh Jacobs first round.
Cleveland Furl.
We want to change the culture of a football team. Is this that sort of draft where they're drafting culture guys for Mike Vrabel, or do you think that's a ridiculous idea?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Going to get best players.
It's tough to get not only the culture guy, but also the team need. You have the luxury of going and getting culture guys when you've already got the talent in the building that needs more massaging and grooming and needs the bumpers at the bowling alley. Those bumpers are the structure guys. They are the this culture fit that we're talking about. So the perfect ones are the guys who fit both of those, and they are hard to find. They're really hard to find.
All right, my team is the New York Giants. We talked about a bunch off the top, but it's just true. When you hold the picks that they do, pick 3, 34, 65, 99. That's 4 picks in the top 100. A lot of value picks. And I already love what they did in free agency. Can't believe I'm saying that, but one of my favorite free agent classes of any team so far. They have some obvious needs. I think defensive tackle, if they're leaving 3, 34, and 65 without one of those, I'd be floored, just because adding anyone next to Dexter Lawrence could take that defense to the stratosphere. And if you add like Abdul Carter and a DT to this mix, you're right up there with the Eagles, in my opinion, for one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. So I think the Giants have a real good shot of knocking this one out the park, but they have to knock it out the park, in my opinion, because, again, if they don't, Brian Dable, Joe Shane, not going to be there anymore. Looks like we lost Kyle Long. Had to hop off there a little bit. Hopefully he comes back for this next one. Here he is. But it's a little peekaboo.
I was just press join chat because I was just going to involve myself in the chat, and I shut my somehow. Thank God I got a quick trigger finger and I'm back in here. So you were talking about the Giants free agency moves. Go on.
I just basically said that 3, 34, 65. They got so much draft capital in that this is necessary. It's necessary to keep their jobs, and also necessary because there's so much premium picks here that, like, you screw it up, you're setting yourself back a ton, because when you have these premium picks, you give them long leashes. And so I don't think they could screw up 3, truthfully, but 34, 65, we shall see. I'm most likely to make a head scratcher of any of the teams in this year's draft.
Okay. So you've heard me say this before. Myles Garrett is from another planet. It's hard enough to play against that unit when you've got Myles out there. He is a game wrecker, a game plan alterer. Let's throw another guy out there who gives nightmares to people. Abdul Carter. Well, Abdul Carter has dealt with some health concerns going into this draft season. The combine, private workout stuff. He's had the foot, the shoulder, correct? He played with the shoulder this last season. The foot came up this offseason. I could see the Browns getting a little cute and going away from the Abdul Carter pick, which I think is a slam dunk, a home run. You want to get your team better, just dominate the line of scrimmage, fold the edges of the pocket. I could see them getting cute, not taking Abdul Carter and going with Travis Hunter, which would rob football fans of not only Myles Garrett and Abdul Carter, but it would also rob football fans of having Travis Hunter be on a good football team.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. True. I love Kevin Stefanski. I've loved the offensive line there. Obviously, I glaze Myles Garrett any opportunity I have, but it will be a real head scratcher if the Browns don't go with Abdul Carter and they penalize the 31 other fan bases by putting Travis Hunter in their city.
Yeah, I think if you're a football fan, obviously you could be a Browns fan, Giants fan, but just like if you're a fan of football and you don't desperately want to see Abdul Carter, Myles Garrett together, and then Jameis Winston throwing to Malik Neighbors and Travis Hunter, I need your rationale, because that to me is the single most exciting outcome of this draft. That is entertaining football. So if it goes Travis Hunter, if we have Kenny Pickett throwing to Travis Hunter, that is not exciting. No one is tuning in to watch that. If we have Abdul Carter being a rotational rusher on a Giants defensive line behind Kayvon Thibodeau as a rookie, that is not exciting football.
No.
They are still the fourth best team in that division.
He'll probably get very good with Bernsey and KT, and he's going to learn a ton of stuff, but we're not going to learn anything.
Exactly. So I think we all can agree on that. My team most likely to make a head scratcher is the team that's just been having me scratch my head. I'm about to have a bald spot with if I was a Saints fan, they're just no rhyme or reason they have. I think I put it this way to someone the other day. Drew Brees retired 2021. They have treated every offseason since then like they are Super Bowl contenders. They have not made the playoffs once since Drew Brees retired. Not once. So I think it's time to start looking ahead, and especially with this Derek Carr injury news. I'm not drafting a rookie quarterback. Sure, false to 9. I'm not drafting a rookie quarterback, putting him behind that mediocre pass protecting offensive line, and thinking that he is going to play like Jane Daniels or play like
you can't just right the ship
Drake May
with that. It's more than that.
Exactly. So I think they make a head scratcher. I hope they don't. I hope they don't trade up any of their picks. They need as many picks as possible. I hope they trade down 5 times. This is a team in desperate need of a reset. It's one of the thinnest rosters in the NFL because they quite frankly just haven't had a lot of picks. So all that being said, they are the most likely to make a head scratcher.
It's like in poker. It's like in poker when you got a buddy who just wants to bet every single hand. It's like, why don't you just watch a couple hands? That's the Saints. Why don't you just sip on your drink for a second, eat some baby cake or whatever they're eating down there.
I've called Mickey Loomis. He's the guy who just goes bust at the blackjack table, and then he's at the ATM within 10 seconds.
He's on the phone with his finance guy, and simultaneously his wife is texting him, why are we losing money? And he's just mashing buttons on the ATM, paying the fees, everything. And he doesn't tip any dealers. Doesn't tip the dealers, just saves all his money to bet.
Oh, God. He's
drinks for free at the table. Yeah. Okay. What are we talking now? We're talking
most likely to reach. Who's most likely to reach?
Well,
or need.
I'm going to catch some flack for this, but I think that the Las Vegas Raiders will draft Ashton Genty.
Okay.
And 90% of America would say, well, yeah, he's, did you watch him play in college? He's so good. Did you see what Saquon Barkley did for the Eagles? I want people to know and understand that there are a lot of really good there are a lot of good running backs in the National Football League. There are a handful of great running backs, and there's probably maybe 2 exceptionally elite running backs in the National Football League. one of those two guys runs behind arguably the best offensive line in football. So if you're planning on drafting Ashton Genty with the plans to make your offense look like, let's just say, Jahmyr Gibbs in Detroit or Saquon Barkley in Philadelphia, or, we could even make the stretch and say Derrick Henry in Baltimore. You're not going to be bringing those guys with you when you close your eyes and have a dream about what this running back looks like in your offense. It's like when we signed Ben Johnson in Chicago, when the Chicago Bears signed Ben Johnson. Can we bring Penei Sewell? Can we bring Frank Ragnow? Can we bring Amon-Ra St. Brown? Screw it. Throw Tim Patrick in there as well. I think that it makes sense for Ashton Genty to go to the Raiders. But I think in my heart of hearts that there could be people available that would impact their team overall more than Ashton Genty at 6.
Yeah. So just going back through like kind of the last, say, 20 years of running backs drafted top 10. You got in 2005, Ronnie Brown, Cedric Benson, Cadillac Williams. 2006, Reggie Bush. 2007, Adrian Peterson. 2008, Darren McFadden. You have 2010, CJ Spiller. Then you have 2012, Trent Richardson. Then you have Todd Gurley in 2015, Zeke Elliott 2016, Leonard Fournette, Christian McCaffrey 2017, Saquon 2018, and then you have Bijan Robinson, the only one since then, 2013, number 8 overall. How many of those ended up being, you said good backs versus great backs? How many of those ended up being great backs? Saquon,
AP, Todd Gurley for a burst, AP for a long time.
Was he worth it? Christian McCaffrey.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you have to have, if you're going to get the whiskey, it better come with Coke. You know what I'm saying? You can't just buy a Coke and expect it to be a whiskey Coke. And that's what you're doing with getting a running back. You better have that line of hungry dogs waiting for this guy to show up. You better have a quarterback that can capitalize on what the defense does now that they respect the run and pack the box, load the box. Now you're looking at single safety reads, and you got a quarterback who can make those moves. I'm not sure, they're ready for all that. I love Geno Smith. I love Pete Carroll. Chip Kelly, that's my dog. He gave me a chance to play in college. I have no doubt that he's going to dominate with the 2 tight end system, and they're going to bring in Genty, and he's going to have a great year. But at the end of the day, you need a little bit more than that to really beat these teams that are just absolutely loaded at every position.
Yeah, and the conversation isn't just is Genty going to be good? I think we all could say he's going to be very good.
Yes.
I don't have a Trent Richardson worry about his vision or whatever. But it's how much impact does he make on your franchise versus how much impact does Armand Membu, who plugs a hole at right tackle, will be, if he hits, will be on your team for 10 to 12 years, as opposed to Ashton Genty, who will be on your team for 6 to 8. More likely than not, just that's the nature of the running back position, unfortunately.
And your team's not ready now.
Yes.
So you're looking at potentially the Saquon situation. The irony is you want him to be Saquon in Philly, but he may end up being Saquon in New York.
Yeah, right? That's why the top 10 pick on a running back is kind of a fool's gold errand, because you think it changes you quickly, and it does change you quickly, but not to the point that you need to get to, as we saw with the New York Giants, unfortunately, and very tragically. My team that I think is most likely to reach for the name, New England Patriots, just because I think they draft an offensive lineman, and I don't think the value at 4 is there for an offensive lineman. I just don't have any of these guys, unfortunately, evaluated as top 5 sort of offensive tackles. There's not a Joe Alt in this class. There's not a Penei Sewell in this class. Now, Penei Sewell didn't technically go top 5, but you know what I'm saying. It just isn't that. Now, I just after pumping Armand Membu's tires, but it's just you're going to draft someone at number 4 overall, and you'll probably be solid in time, but there's not a guy who's going to plug it right away, right? There's not a guy who's going to give you that level of performance day one that protects Drake May. And I think that's what you're really looking for. That's what you're really hoping for. And I just don't, unfortunately, see it in this draft.
I mean, in this bunch of tackles, there could be a guy that shows up and is an ass kicker from day one. But there's nobody who's made it obvious to us.
Mm-hmm. The round one player team fit that you love the most.
Well, we both went with tight ends here, and we've talked about these guys at length. Tyler Warren, who we got to interview at the Super Bowl, I feel like is tailor-made for Ben Johnson's offense and what he's looking to get accomplished, and having a number of different guys that are true pass-catching threats, true playmaking threats. And whether Tyler Warren's in the backfield, getting the snap from the center, or lined out wide, or in the slot, or getting ready to tray with a guy like Darnell Wright. Trey is a double team in the gap scheme world. So think power, think counter, think that things of that nature, or just at the point of attack on a drive block. I think Tyler Warren fits the bill for the type of personality you want. He's a football guy. We spent some time with him. I mean, outside of the interview, he gave us nothing except for just ball. The guy just exudes football. I'm not sure if you felt the exact same way that I did, but he was bigger than I thought he was going to be. He was stout. And then you watch him run on film. You watch him make plays with or without the ball. And he's a guy that I think Ben Johnson will drool over. That's mine. Ben Johnson, Bears, Tyler Warren.
Yeah, I kind of hate that. I kind of hate that if they draft him. It puts you in a bind defensively for how you want to handle basically a set that is Cole Kmet, Tyler Warren, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze. Because he could be, everyone's like, who's the Amon-Ra St. Brown? He can go run those routes in the slot the way Amon-Ra St. Brown does. His ability on in-breakers, out-breakers, like it is Jason Witten-esque. It is a slot machine, the way he runs those. And just that separation, the ability to dip that shoulder, quick out of his cuts. And I just hate the thought of that. Now, the only saving grace for that is that Caleb Williams, just at least last year, was terrified of throwing those routes. He did not want to throw those quick underneath targets. But if Tyler Warren's open enough, heck, you might even convince Caleb to do so. All right, I'm going to go with another tight end as a team I love. I'm going to go Colson Loveland to the Chargers for a lot of the similar reasons in terms of just need. Obviously, they need any reliable pass catcher. Fit, I think he's a capable inline run blocker that will only get better as he gets stronger. Because again, this guy's very young. He just turned 21, I believe, last week. So he will ascend as a run blocker. And then I've said this a few times, but it's like, I don't think it's a coincidence that the two best quarterbacks of the past 20 years, maybe not best, that's debatable, but the two most successful had elite tight ends, had the two best tight ends over that time span. And it's because that production is the most difficult to scheme away as a defense. Guys that can work the middle of the football field. What can you do? How do you double a guy who just knows how to fit in a zone? How do you double a guy between the hashes? It's easy to throw a safety over the top of a Jamar Chase. Where do you throw a safety over the top of an out route, a 7-yard out at the sticks, right? It's like it gets more difficult, and it puts your defense in more of a bind and takes more resources away elsewhere. If you have two guys guarding the middle of the football field, that leaves a lot of more space right over on the outside. So I love that fit. Colson Loveland to the Chargers, and I think the Chargers will as well if he's on the board.
And a Michigan man.
Yes, again, I think everyone's like plugging them because there's 4 Michigan guys probably going to go first round.
He missed out on his handsome beau and J.J. McCarthy, but he got a bigger, stronger version of Justin Herbert. Now he can go get this tight end and just run wild. They can do whatever they want to do.
All right, what's the player team fit you hate the most that you've seen mocked?
Well, you heard my take on the Browns probably pissing their pants on the Abdul Carter pick. I'm thinking maybe they also piss their pants on the Travis Hunter pick, and maybe they go with a quarterback, Shedeur Sanders. And this is the one that I hate the most if this were to happen. If Shedeur goes number 2, and ends up in
the
Cleveland.
market that's perfect for him. Cleveland's just
this is just the antithesis of the things that I was just standing on a soapbox about 20 minutes ago. It would rob a lot of people of a lot of things, including Shedeur Sanders, of the opportunity to flourish, because I truly
start his luxury clothing brand. That
Lake Erie is where quarterbacks go to die.
Yeah, I don't love that fit either. Mine is Amarion Hampton to the Broncos. I get weapons for Bo Nix, but I push back on the fact that a running back's really a weapon for a quarterback. Bo Nix already, like, you need to promote Bo Nix throwing down the football field, right? You don't need to promote Bo Nix throwing to a running back.
Running backs are weapons for the offense. Quarterbacks' weapons look like me, or they look like Travis Hunter.
100%. That's where my brain is at. So, and again, Amarion Hampton, great running back. I hate doing this conversation every single year, but especially this year, because there's just so many damn good running backs that draft one at 20. He might not be too dissimilar than the guy you can get at 52, than the guy you can get at 84. I'm just saying. All right. Who will get an A+ grade post draft? Oh gosh. If you're listening to the
Bear down, Chicago Bears. I've got, by the way, this wall behind me will be just decorated with a bunch of bear stuff that I sent it out to all get framed, different frames, beautiful textures, natural textures going to be up there. Just a lot of cool bear stuff. You're going to have to look at this every day. It's not just the days that I wear, this Bears hoodie, but you're going to see the Bears every day. I'm sure you're looking forward to it. You made our show have.
We're coming up on 40.
The Pushing the Pile logo right up here. If you walk into our studio, if you see us do this show from the studio, which I believe we're in studio tomorrow, you will notice this logo, and behind it is green, Packers green. So I work in a Packers green and yellow studio every day. So I'm going to force you, when you're remote, to feel like you're right there at mine.
Hey, 40th anniversary coming up this year. You guys should be happy about
40th anniversary. That's ridiculous. Well, we're going to restart the clock on anniversaries when Caleb Williams wins us the Super Bowl.
We'll see. We'll see about that. And sadly, I do think the Bears are in a great spot to win this draft. Not only because they have, a lot of draft capital, picks 39, 41, 72 outside of obviously number 10, but because their needs, and I was on stupid 670 the score last night, and he's like, yeah, I think our biggest needs are running back, tight end, and edge. And I was like, I hadn't even thought of that for the Bears. That, their biggest needs are the three best positions in this draft class. So they might come away with it with an elite draft class. Might. I mean, they will. Like, they're going to get good player when that's just the nature of deep draft classes, is that I always point to Tristan Wirfs going like 13 overall when in this class, Tristan Wirfs goes 4. Tristan Wirfs as a prospect would have gone 4 in this draft, but there was an Andrew Thomas there. There was a Jedrick Wills there. There was a Mekhi Becton. There was some athletic
crazy
marvels. Like that was just a awesome tackle class.
Like, you just put the film on last year and you're like, this wasn't a number 1 pick.
Right. And so he goes, but that's just the nature of when you have a really good draft class. So, I agree they will. I honestly think the Browns will. I think the Browns will too, just because top of the second round. So 2 fits perfectly for either Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. I lean Abdul Carter because 33, you're going to have, I think, one of kind of the 4 guys who have been mocked as first rounders at wide receiver. I don't think Ted McMillan's going to be there, but Luther Bird, Matthew Gold, and Emeka Egbuka. I think one of them sitting there at 33. You take them. And then at 67, you can add like another DT. It's a super deep DT class. You can add to this defense. You can add to this offensive line. So I think they're in a great spot to get an A+ draft. So we'll see. A little bit different than your take on the Browns, but it's a team that desperately needs to have an A+.
They could get it. They could get it right, or they could get it very wrong. There's no in between. There's they turn the video game on, and the first level, it's like, okay, you have a decision to make. And if you don't know anything, like, you could just make the wrong decision. Do not go down that path.
Last team superlative here. What is a position that a team should double up on And I feel like I know your answer already.
Well, there's a ton of versatility in the offensive line in this year's draft. A number of these guys are exceptional at their position, but they also really excel at another position, whether it be tackle and guard. There's some guys that can play tackle, guard, center, and I'll probably talk about some of these guys here moving forward in the show. But I think that if you become an offensive line farm, if your team has as many of these young offensive linemen on your roster, you're going to be in a good spot because these guys get expensive quickly. You take a look at the top 5 guard earners in the league. The average is about $25 million a year. That is an expensive number. So try all these guys out before they get to be that number, because there is no way that you're going to win a Super Bowl without them. Why not have as many of them as possible? Let's take Philadelphia, for example. A number of teams that were in situations last year that it benefited them having so many offensive linemen, and then you go to Kansas City, and Kansas City had to move an all-pro to tackle because they didn't have the right guy to play left tackle for them in a pinch. Offensive linemen, anyone with versatility, become a farm. These guys get expensive quickly. Those are the things I wrote. That's what I believe.
To put some context to it, in my top 100 that's going to draft, I believe, next week, I have only 3 interior offensive linemen that are slotted to play at the position they played. So 2 guards and 1 center. Tyler Booker, Tate Ratledge from Alabama and Georgia at guard, Jared Wilson at center. That's it for guys who are staying at their position to be interior offensive linemen. Every other guy that you're drafting to play guard or center played tackle last year. So there's a lot of guys moving. Someone like Gray Zabel from North Dakota State is going to have to move. People want to move Josh Simmons or Kelvin Banks inside. People want to move Will Campbell inside. Marcus Bowe from Purdue, I want to move inside. Jonas Avinaya from Arizona inside. Wyatt Milam from West Virginia inside. So Anthony Belton from NC State. Like, there's a lot of tackle to guard converts, which, historically, outside of yourself, that's where you find a lot of elite guards still. So it's not a bad thing. It's just know that that's the case in this year's draft. That's a little bit different from other years. My position, defensive tackle. I love this defensive tackle class, specifically the day 2 of it, but also I like the guys on day 1. Of them, Mason Graham, I'm a big fan of. Walter Nolan, I'm a big fan of. Derek Harmon, I'm a big fan of. I think all 3 of those guys are going to end up in my top 12. I am like very high on those DTs. But then like your second or third rounders, I love Tyleik Williams as like a nose tackle run defender. I love Alfred Collins in that same mold. I love Jamari Caldwell as like a one-gapping nose tackle that can get up the football field. I love a few of the 3 techniques like Shamar Turner or TJ Sanders or Darius Alexander. Like, it's a great defensive tackle class. So you can get one type in the first round, another type in the second or third round, and have an interior that is revitalized in one draft. So that's the team, or the position that if you're weak at, I'm trying to think of teams that are kind of weak at it. Texans, most notably, I think one of the weaker DT groups. Dolphins, you could double up at that position and completely transform your defensive line. All right. That is our team superlatives. We're going to take a quick break. After that, prospect superlatives coming up next.
She knows, and I know she knows.
Best, we'll start at the very top here. Best overall prospect in this year's class.
I think the can't miss guy, I usually go with a heavy, I'd find some defensive lineman or some tackle that I feel like is can't miss. And there's plenty of those guys who are really good at playing. But Travis Hunter, he could change the way that you operate offensively. Obviously, his ability to play defense is going to be a big conversation point. But I think his ball skills, and his big play ability, his ability to jump and then seemingly jump again to elevate his body control in the air. It's going to be necessary against these freakazoids that play the corner position and that are out there running like track stars and jumping like Olympians. I think that Travis Hunter can really level the playing field anywhere he ends up, except for Cleveland. And that'll be a lot of fun to watch this guy play. There's only a handful of these guys that you're like, wherever he is, I'm going to make sure to tune in to see what he does. He's one of these guys.
Yeah, mine. It's either him or Abdul Carter, in my opinion, and it's not that I'm not too far off on either. If Travis Hunter can truly play both sides of the ball, even if it's like 85%, 45%, I think that tips the scales enough. There you go, him. But Abdul Carter, to me, just as an athlete, in terms of what he's capable of, he is the most impressive athlete at the edge since Myles Garrett for me. And now he's maybe not the best edge prospect since Myles Garrett. That one, whatever, debate however you want, just because he's not refined. But he only had 1 year there. He is, just in terms of it's really like the total package for the edge. He's got explosiveness off the ball. He is built like a rock. The guy is strong as shit. He's quick, agile,
change of direction.
Yes, it's like it is everything to his game.
The change of direction is what really gives me nightmares. When I first laid eyes on this football player that God clearly laid his hand on, there's a clip of Myles Garrett on film. I think it was in 2023 or 2024.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Where it looks like
teleport.
There were frames missing in the film. So they did a JFK Sabruder film deep dive into this. There were no frames missing. Myles Garrett went from point A, which was off camera to my left, and he ended up on point B, which is off camera to my right. And the O-lineman didn't know where he was, didn't know what planet he was on, or who he was trying to block, or who he was
like a Darren Williams crossover.
Abdul Carter has the same kind of cross face, has the same kind of change of direction. Put your foot in the, like when Saquon Barkley shrinks at the line of scrimmage and bursts laterally and makes 4 grown men hit the turf. That is what Abdul Carter does to offensive linemen. He will be damn near unblockable on third down from day one. I wish I was a fly on the wall in those 101s when he first shows up to practice, wherever he ends up.
Yeah, guys just different. So yeah, either of those two, they are special prospects. All right, most underrated prospect in the draft. I see yours and I love it because we have the exact same guy.
Well, Charles Grant. You've heard me talk about offensive linemen, the value that these guys have, and the ability for them not only to help your team immediately, but grow. And nobody has more room for growth than William & Mary, offensive tackle Charles Grant. This guy makes movement look elementary. He just looks smooth and easy doing it. He just started playing the game. He's obviously a guy that wasn't playing against elite tier competition, but as someone who played in junior college and played baseball in college, I can relate to what Mr. Grant's probably gone through. He's probably licking his chops getting ready to go play against the best, because I would assume he has that kind of confidence. And if you're a William & Mary guy, you're a really smart player. People always say the offensive line is the smartest position group on the team. And if you're a William & Mary guy, you instantly become the smartest offensive lineman in the room.
And I'm right there with you. I love the trajectory of this guy. He not only, so he started playing football as a junior in high school. He got to William & Mary. Guess how much he weighed?
270.
240.
Jeez.
He has gained over 60 pounds since getting there, and still has the frame, like 6'10" and a half inch wingspan. He still has a frame to like, he could get up to like 315, 320. And just like, the guy is a heck of an athlete. Obviously had an injury that missed him a lot of his pre-draft process. Would have had a lot more hype if he did have that. But you just watch him run on the football field. The guy can scoot. He really has all the traits, and just like, not only just, like the way he moves, but then the way he uses his hands. Like you see the wrestling background, you see his ability to gain leverage with his hands, to torque with his upper body, the control. That's just like, that's what it looks like when you get to the high end. That's what the high end guys look like. He needs obviously technical refinement, but it truly is all there with him. I do think that we'll be talking about him as just like starting offensive tackle at minimum.
I remember my rookie year at the Pro Bowl. I was an alternate my rookie year. So somebody like was going skiing, and they were like, Kyle, you have to come because a real Pro Bowler is missing and we need you. So I showed up, and I'm in the hotel lobby for check-in in Hawaii, and they give you your lei when you walk in. And then I saw a giant, like 10-foot tall wood statue in the corner, and it looked, and then it turned to me. The statue turned to me. It was Tyron Smith, and Tyron Smith looked like a god, and his arms went down. His fingers were down by his low calves, and he was just chiseled from stone, and a guy that could gain 20 pounds and not look fat, could gain 30 pounds and not look fat. Charles Grant, when you talk about his measurables, there's a certain way a O lineman, O tackle is supposed to look. That's how you're supposed to look.
100%. All right. Boom, the most boom or a bust prospect in this year's class.
I'm going to go with Luther Burden III. And this is, guy's a really good player. Okay. We both like him, and we've talked about him a lot. But because we had a boom or bust segment, I got to give a quotable here from a scout. And I love quoting just scouts. Okay.
Yes.
Nobody wants to put their name on it. So he's a 5-star. They kiss his ass for 3 years just to keep him there. The girlfriend is his manager. The mom is a problem, but he's a good player on Saturday, and he's very ordinary Monday through Friday. Now, the first part of this,
mom just catching
the first part of this, the girlfriend is his manager. Okay, my wife is, my CEO, my manager. Okay, she's graduated from manager to CEO. And I'm sure your fiance is the same way in your life, right? So I have no problem with the girlfriend as his manager. That's just bullshit. It's a low blow to throw in there. Maybe he's jealous. This scout is jealous that his girlfriend doesn't help him manage. The mom is a problem. Well, let's get in deep. What does that even mean? You can't just be throwing out the mom as a problem and not having backup. This is the part that got me. Okay. If I am a decision maker, I'm reading this last sentence, but he's a good player on Saturday and he's very ordinary Monday through Friday. Very ordinary Monday through Friday. That's not good. You go to the NFL and you find out very quickly that not only are these guys the best athletes, but it's more often than not the people that have the best habits and are the best people. And oftentimes you hear coaches say, this is not a football business, this is a people business. You want people to feel good being around you. You want people to be motivated being around you. You want people to know through your work ethic Monday through Saturday in the National Football League. It's another day now that you're going to be there and do your shit. I'm confused as to why they would say that, but I haven't heard that said about anybody else in this draft class, which leads me to believe that he fits the bill for our boom or bust prospect segment.
And I think it shows on tape. He has all the capabilities to be an elite route runner, but he's not. Why is he not? It's not like the guy's, hasn't been playing wide receiver for forever. He has. It's like, I do think that when you watch him on film, you see this as well. So I think he fits the bill. My guy is Shedeur Stewart for biggest boomer bust. I'm not breaking any ground here. I think everyone has the same take on him. Got his 4.5 career sacks. He also has, testing numbers comparable to Myles Garrett. So it's a square, a circle. You got square, but we'll see how Shedeur Stewart fares in the NFL. All right, player you trade up for. If he falls, we're going to do pick 15, and then we're going to do pick 30. So if he falls to pick 15, who's the guy you trade up for?
I may end up swapping these two, but I feel good about both my answers. So falling to pick 15, this is a guy that I really loved on film when I was doing the scouting of him. Now, granted, he was healthy when he was on film, and there's been some health issues with Josh Simmons. But you talked about position versatility. People talked about moving him inside. I thought he fit just fine at the offensive tackle position. He's a guy with a chip on his shoulder. He also was a transfer to Ohio State. Did not have 4 years of one school. I'm interested to see what happens when he goes into a building and can have that family feeling around him, because we know with the current climate in college football that all these guys are as selfish as they've ever been. And I hate to say that, but that's just when you bring all this money into it, there's a lot of decisions being made for me as opposed to we. You kind of fall back into we when you get to the National Football League. And I think Josh Simmons, if given the right room, if there's a team there with a group of guys who he can flourish with, they might pull the trigger because I think he is very good. You've heard my sentiments about offensive linemen and their value.
Yeah. I do think Simmons, if you get a clean bill of health on him and he's at pick 15, 100%. I think he's closer to the level of Membu, Campbell, Banks, whatever at the top of this draft than he is to the next group of tackles, in my opinion. My guy that I think could realistically fall to pick 15 and I'd be willing to trade up for T-Mac, Tyrell McMillan, Arizona wide receiver. He just has such a high floor. He moves so fluidly for a guy his size. He can stop so well. He has such good hands. He's so natural as an athlete that speed concerns, he's not slower than Drake London coming out. Drake London went 8th overall. Drake London didn't run a 40 in the pre-draft process. T-Mac is not slower than him on tape. Drake London is now obviously one of the best receivers in the NFL. I don't think anyone's confusing him for a top 5 wide receiver anytime soon. But no one's going to say that
his physical traits
pick.
Makes him an outlier.
Yes,
and they can rely on. He can post guys up.
Exactly. He's
play tall, play strong.
A true number 1 type of wide receiver that you like pump targets to.
Red zone. If the way I always look at it, if you're a great receiver, they're going to throw to you in the red zone. Mm-hmm. Like you don't get that kind of treatment if you're not a guy. And Drake London gets it in Atlanta. And I like Tet McMillan because of his physical traits, because you can't teach that.
And they can win in high leverage situations. Maybe on 1st and 2nd down, they're not running deep posts that go for 70 yards. But on 3rd and 6, you better double him. On a 2nd and 5 at the goal line, you better double him. If he's singled up on the outside, chances are he's winning that. And it's a touchdown and it's a 1st down. So yes, Tyrell McMillan, I'm trading up for Packers. Feel free to take that into account. All right.
Well, then it's another guy who's not a true number 1 in Green Bay. And it's just a bunch of guys who are really good.
Quit. Don't put that juju on.
Beef. We need beef.
Positive energy.
Josh Jacobs, do you hear what I'm saying? Josh Jacobs, just echo these sentiments on social media.
He was the one that created the firestorm at the Super Bowl.
That. That's what I'm saying. Are you listening to this? Retweet it.
Tet. Although apparently he doesn't go by Tet. He says no one ever calls me Tet. It's T-Mac or Tyrell.
I like T-Mac a lot.
Yeah, T-Mac's good. But like there is one iconic T-Mac though, at least in my generation, our generation.
Yeah. Tracy McGrady.
Yes. You say T-Mac, it's 2000 dunk contest T-Mac playing with the Raptors, or Orlando dunking on Yao Ming T-Mac. It's not Arizona wide receiver T-Mac. Sorry.
Didn't T-Mac score like 17 points in 6 seconds or something like that?
Oh yeah. What was it? That was with the Rockets.
Pull it up, Jamie. We'll find it. We'll figure it out.
All right. If he falls to 30, who's the player you're trading up for?
Gray Zabel. Okay. And he's got to probably be there, right? He'll be there.
He very well could, yeah.
But this is more of a who are you trading up for, or who are you going to reach for a little bit? May not be in the top 30, but Gray Zabel. Mm-hmm. I love this guy's ball. I mean, the guy plays great ball. He's got a ton of position versatility. You watch him on film. He was there at the Senior Bowl playing center, guard, tackle. He did it all, and he was wearing people out. He's got great hands. He's obviously got the demeanor to play offensive line at the next level, because you may have the physical tools to get it done in college, but when somebody punches you in the mouth day 1 of training camp, you better have an answer. I think Gray Zabel's a guy who's got an answer. And you talk about culture fits. This is going to be a culture fit. Nobody likes an offensive lineman more than when they come in from a small school with a mustache and they can play any position. And their name is Gray Zabel. It looks like, when they generate your username on Xbox and it's like Whirly Pig or like, Loopy Dinosaur. Gray Zabel was like pick 7. He probably just pressed shuffle. His mom. Educated ferret. His mom pressed shuffle a couple times, came up with Gray Zabel, and they said, "Here's your helmet. Go play some football, son."
I like that because also, say you're I'm trying to think who's like in the market. Say you're outside like 40. You're like the Bears at 39, Saints at 40, and you want that left guard. You're the Saints. You're jumping teams in the Giants, the Titans, the Jags, who could all use interior offensive line that are probably going to jump at the chance to draft Grey Zabel if he falls. All right, my guy. I'm actually going to throw a couple names out here. My first one is Colson Loveland if he falls to pick 30, the Michigan tight end. Because, again, you're jumping two teams that would probably take him, in the Kansas City Chiefs, the Philadelphia Eagles. Definitely keep him away from Kansas City.
The Chiefs got him?
We can't let that happen.
My God.
So go jump, please. Please, someone jump the Kansas City Chiefs.
That's the next graphic on Monday Night Football. They're like, this team could have had Colson Loveland, but they ended up at Patrick Mahomes' lap.
Now, so Colson Loveland, and I'll also throw Walter Nolan in there because the Chiefs and the Eagles could use that 3 technique, could use another defensive tackle in their defense. So those two guys, they're both top 12 guys on my board. And because of that, I think I've seen them end up there in mocks. And if they do, jump. Someone, please jump. Especially the Eagles. We can't let them get Walter Nolan.
They can't let them keep getting away with this.
Most likely to grab headlines this offseason.
I read this question and I was thinking just like, who's going to be on TMZ? And I could totally see a guy like Shedeur Sanders getting stopped more often at, LAX, at JFK.
Oh, dude, when he gets drafted, is he going to get like the ESPN Bronny treatment where it's he throws one, has one private workout or something. It's like, look at this crazy throw from Shedeur Sanders in his private workout. And all of a sudden it's like,
I'm rooting for him, dude. Okay, so I was having this conversation with a buddy of mine. I think I was complaining about like 2 years ago some comments that Shedeur made about his offensive line. And my buddy, who's known me for a very long time, was pissed off at my stance on Shedeur Sanders. And it made me rethink my stance on Shedeur Sanders. There's nobody in the world who should be championing for Shedeur Sanders to have success more than me. Because I grew up in a house with a dad who's a Hall of Famer. I had an older brother who played in the National Football League, who was a number 2 overall pick. My younger brother works in the NFL as well. He's been with the Raiders since 2013. We are lifer football people, as are the Sanders family. And I also remember back to, I believe it was 2015 at the Pro Bowl, they had legends as team captains. And I think it was Michael Irvin and it was Deion Sanders. And I remember it was a crowd of people like the pit at a concert. And then the 2 legends up on stage like draft day, and they were picking people. Boom, boom, pick. It was whoever, Odell, you're on my team. I need a baller, blah, 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 blah. And Deion picked me essentially, and he was like, I know your daddy. I know what you're going to be about. And I was like, at the time, it meant the world to me that Deion even acknowledged me. And now 10, 15 years later, wherever the hell we are, it makes sense. And it would make sense for a guy like me to be like, Shedeur, I hope you go ball out. I hope you end up on a team that needs you and, appreciates you. And I hope that you just have a ton of success, because I know how hard it is at times. Obviously, there's a lot of easy things that go along with being who we are and having our dads. But there's a lot of things that are made a lot harder. And the river that you think flows fast for us is oftentimes against us. And it's the people who swim upstream that end up jacked as shit. And I think Shedeur has that mental armor now because he's been in the spotlight. That's my Shedeur talk. I just had to get that off my chest.
That's a great way to put it. Thank you for that. All right, my guy, Isaiah Bond. He's already made some sexual assault allegations arrest. The things I've heard about him, he may go completely undrafted, even despite, preseason before he transferred to Texas. Guy was in every first round mock. I mean, he's absurdly talented, but very likely to grab even more headlines this offseason. All right, the injury risk that you would take in this draft, a guy who has a lingering, that plus sign, that red plus sign next to his name, but you still are like, I don't give a darn. 2
guys. Abdul Carter is my answer. And, people had questions about the shoulder, the foot this offseason. Mm-hmm. He had to get, I think a minimally invasive surgery on his foot. Am I right? Or something like that. Something along those lines. I thought he opted
against the surgery, but let me.
So when I said minimally invasive, I guess that's my brain's way of saying, it's not that serious.
You got a massage.
So whether he got a massage or he went under the knife or a laser or a scope, whatever it was, I'm not worried about it. I've seen the guy play. I've seen what I need to see. That's mine. The other guy is Simmons from Ohio State. And
yeah, you love Simmons. I love Simmons too. We'll see though. I just I just know that Patellar is not a good injury for an offensive lineman. Now, I'm going to name a guy who has an injury that's not a good injury for his position, but I'm also a massive homer. So Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame. Surprise, surprise. His tape is first round tape. I have hated that people have called him like not a first round. I just like don't see it. I watch his tape and I'm like, he has the best feet in this draft class at the corner position. He is so smooth, so fluid. He is a first-round corner since his freshman year. The guy has not allowed a completion percentage against of over 50% in any of the seasons he's played. Now he's a little slight, not particularly but he's feisty. I love his game, but a hip, and apparently his second hip, my dad, who's an orthopedic surgeon, compared it to like a knee meniscus that once it's cleaned up should theoretically come to full strength, but obviously easier said than done. And a hip is a pretty darn big thing for a cornerback. But that guy's just watching him play is so good. And very much a skill set that can win the NFL. So I'm going to say Benjamin Morrison. I'd still take him. Maybe not necessarily first round, obviously, because of an injury risk, but I'd still take him top of the second. All right. Best day 2 prospect in your eyes.
Okay, so I considered myself to be a day 2 prospect prior to being drafted, obviously, in the first round. I thought I was going to be a third round guy, second to fourth round guy. So I have a soft spot in my heart for these guys who aren't quite considered to be the best of the best, but pretty damn good. Wyatt Milam, offensive lineman, West Virginia. I was introduced to this guy via social media when somebody said, you need to watch Wyatt Milam because he reminds me a lot of how you played. And I was like, okay, I'll check this dude out. I was in agreement with the sender of the video. This guy loves football. And another one of those dudes that plays his butt off and is physically imposing, loves to get great leverage at the line of scrimmage. He's somebody that I think has the athleticism to be able to play at the next level, obviously, but he's probably going to fall into the day 2 range, and whoever ends up with him is getting a day 1 starter, in my opinion, and somebody that will have a positive impact on your O-line.
I love Wyatt Milam too. I'm right there in agreement with you, but I have a couple other guys on my board higher that I think will fall to day 2. I at least haven't seen them in day 1 mocks. One's Kyle Williams from Washington State, but I've gassed him up so much this offseason, I'm going to go with someone else as well. Braden Swinson from LSU. This guy knows how to rush the passer. He is violent as a pass rusher. He's a late breakout. He was not even a starter until his past year, his 5th year in college football. But I'm buying after what I saw from him. Now, he didn't do a full testing run, but the drills he did do, at 255 pounds, he had a 7.133 cone, over 80th percentile for the position, 4.33 short shuttle, over 80th percentile for the position. He's a good change of direction athlete, and he plays the game the right way. Good length, 33 3/8 inch arms, almost a 6'10" wingspan. He had the second highest pass rushing win rate on true pass sets behind only Abdul Carter in college football. And he's playing in the SEC, where a lot of the top tackles we're talking about were playing this past season. So I don't know. I don't know why he's not getting more first round buzz. He's going to be, I think, a top 32 player on my board when it's all said and done. I haven't quite finished it yet, but that's how I see him. So Braden Swinson, guy can play. Guy can rush the passer.
And you know what? You're talking about his pressure numbers, and that tells me one of two things. As an offensive lineman, when I'm scouting these guys, the first thing you do is you get a note card worth of information, sacks, pressures, where they line up, who they like to run games with. And when you look at that pressures number, it tells you one of two things. This guy's either winning at a ridiculous rate, or he plays very, very, very hard. I think it's probably a combination of him winning and playing hard, but those are impressive numbers. And to your point, that value add to a defense is going to thrust him into probably top 35.
I hope so. I mean, I think he's well worth that sort of pick. All right, day 3. Who is your favorite or best day 3 prospect in this draft?
Okay, as a kid, my mom and dad used to get me all kinds of little science projects. And I get to play with beakers, and I was doing my little Walter White thing. Well, I'm going to get a little Walter Whitish, and I'm going to talk about my scientific method pick, and that's Willie Lampkin. I want to find out, first and foremost, how many of you guys in the chat are aware of this Willie Lampkin character out of UNC? And if you are you familiar with how high off of the ground he is? He's 5 feet and 10 inches, to be exact, off of the ground, and he's playing the offensive line position. I am as interested in him as a prospect as I am Travis Hunter as a prospect. For the people that want to talk all day on SportsCenter about Travis Hunter, I want to talk about Willie Lampkin. Yes. I am in on the stock of Willie Lampkin, because if this 5'10" sucker can go in there and whip everybody's ass like he has, and he put on tape at the Senior Bowl, somebody's going to take him. And if he plays, it opens the floodgates. All the short kings are going to flood offensive line rooms all over America. And I couldn't think of a better way to grow the game than to let a 5'10" center in. Next thing you know, they're going to let like blind head coaches, blind referees, even better. He's like, just open the gates for these guys.
He's built like an English bulldog. The guy is just stout as can be. The build is so unique. Can't modify unique, but it's unique. He is 5'10" and a half, but like extremely broad shoulders, long arms for that height. Like he has a 6'5" wingspan at 5'10" and a half.
He's a leverage machine.
Truly one of, you see sometimes guys like that's, you see sometimes guys have, so 7 inches longer wingspan than height. You see that when guys are like 6'10", or like in the NBA, guys who are like tall already, and then their wingspan super tall. You don't see that a lot with guys who are like 5'9", 5'8", 5'10". Like it's a short guys, 5'10", a 6'2" wingspan's huge for a guy 5'10". 6'4" wingspan's not 6'5".
The guys whose arms are like, like really high, like short arms, short people.
That's
short
Brock
arms.
Purdy.
This guy's just like rubbing the ground when he walks around.
So crazy build that, dude, I think it can work. I am actually more worried about the weight than the height, because 275 still slight, but I think it can work. I'm right there with you.
It's either going to work or he's going to be planted into the earth by a 3 technique.
Dexter Lawrence is going to pick him up and just put him on his back, dude. Wear him like a backpack on his way to the quarterback.
JanSport. That's his first sponsorship.
Oh, get the JanSport sponsorship if it doesn't work out for you, Willie.
This was fun, Mike. This was fun.
I got my last day 3 guy, though. CJ West, defensive tackle, nose tackle from Indiana. I think he's just, that guy's what you want at nose tackle. Short, squatty, explosive off the ball. He was a one-man run defense at Indiana, just disruptive as can be. Now, he didn't finish a lot of plays. He doesn't have that wingspan people love. But at nose tackle position, if you're effing things up proverbially on the interior at nose tackle, I don't give a darn if you don't finish a single play all year. If you could put that center 2 yards in the backfield on every play, your job's done. You got other guys who are more athletic with longer wingspans to finish those plays, rack up their stats. I just want my nose tackle to be creating havoc. CJ West, he's a havoc creator.
I have a theory on CJ West types.
Yes.
So if you're not like, I understand some big sexy guys like to wear single digit numbers. If you're a guy that fits the scouting profile that you just presented for CJ West, do yourself a favor and wear 98, wear 94. You go out and number 8, and guys like me might take a look at the film and say this, and I'm an amateur. So of course a guy like me would do this. No, not linebacker. I would say, what is this guy thinking? Wearing number 8. Like, he can't play on my team. He wants to wear number 8. I'm looking forward to seeing him in a 90s number.
Yeah.
I think people's opinions of him may, I don't have any tape on this guy, but I would imagine that people's opinions on him would shoot through the roof if they saw him in a traditional number.
My favorite D-line for like a nose tackle number, 50. 50 is a great nose tackle number.
50 is a good number. They're always wide.
Yeah. I love when a big nose tackle wears 50. Oh, that gets me going. All right. Those were our superlatives for today. we'll be back with more draft content. I think we're going to do a little mailbag tomorrow because we have a special guest. Mitch Morse is joining the program. So if you got questions for Mitch Morse, former Bills center, former Chiefs center, hit us up. And then Thursday, I had a little bit of a different idea. Let me know what you think about this. We're not completely tied to it, but we're going to go through. I was thinking Daniel Jeremiah's latest mock, Mel Kiper's latest mock, and then maybe Dane Brugler's latest mock. And we're going to play a little Would You Rather, all three of those picks, and we're going to debate which one we'd rather have for that respective team.
That sounds fun.
So there's your rest of the week. Thanks so much for tuning in. We will be back tomorrow, and we will be back next week with that other pregame show, draft show. Can't wait for you guys to tune in. Until then, keep pushing.